I can Let me just get my controls out of the way. We are Dynamic Budgets. We're a budgeting, forecasting, and reporting solution that was originally built for Dynamics GP. We've been in the market for about 15 plus years. My background, I am the founder of the company. My name is Zubin Gidwani. Um, I had one foot in finance, one foot in IT, and had the fun challenge of trying to manage the budgets for our corporation. We had five consolidating entities. We had about seven financial analysts, and altogether we had about 600 operating departments. I had the fun pleasure of generating 600 Excel files, emailing those out to the managers, and then waiting for my inbox to blow up. So I've been there, done that, been in your shoes, and knew that there had to be a better solution. We searched the marketplace far and wide. We looked at all the usual suspects. We needed something that was easy to use for non-technical, non-financial operating managers, people who were really gifted at breaking Excel. That was our management staff. We needed to put something in their hands that required minimal training and allowed them to just run with, something that was basically bulletproof that they couldn't break, that required minimal training. And that wasn't going to break the bank in terms of the cost of rolling this out. One of the most frustrating things I ran into was that I'd come across an interesting solution, take it to management, and they said, we can't afford to deploy it. Just if you like your job, keep doing what you're doing, keep your head down. The economy is rough. You ought to be privileged that you have a job. That's not the right answer that you want to hear, but when times are tough, management can sometimes push back and not want to invest in back office solutions. So been there, know the feeling. What we did initially was change the pricing scheme. We have an unlimited user license. So if 5 people, 15 people were involved in budgeting and another 30 people could use this as a reporting tool, great. The more the merrier because we want them looking at the financials, paying attention to the financials, opting in, and being part of the solution. What we have here is a quick slide. We want you to use the tool initially to set the primary budget. Then we want you to be able to come back in and analyze your month spend over under variances, explain why you were over under. Do you think you can recover by year end? And next year, should you do something different? We want you to be able to take those notes and put those notes into the budgeting system. So they're right there at your fingertips next time you go into a reforecasting cycle or into next year's budget. You can look in the bottom half of the screen. I'll show that to you in a little bit, and those notes are right there for you to take action. We encourage a lot of our customers to reforecast. Most of you, if you're doing this in Excel, reforecasting is probably a dirty word. If it takes you 3 months to do a primary budget, God forbid you don't want to have to do it again sometime later in the year. We understand that pain. But the thing is, with dynamic budgets, we built a solution where in a couple of button presses, you can completely clone your original budget. Or if you think that's too much detail, we have tools where you can simply consolidate all of the original line item details. If you itemized your budget and said, I need X, Y, and Z for office supplies, you can drop all those details down to a single line blended of actuals in the first half of the year, budget for the remaining part of the year. Or if you're in healthcare, we see typically they'll do something called an annualized budget, where they basically take their year-to-date spend as of X month and then take that 9 month average, 6 month average, and say, okay, carry that out for the remainder of the year. Take my year-to-date average spend, if you've got standardized expenses month over month, and just project that forward. Another approach we see in, again, going back to healthcare, sometimes they'll call annualized. Basically, they'll take their 9 month average from this year and use that as the basis to project all 12 months next year. So we built in some tools for projecting things like that based on trailing 3, 6, 9, 12 month averages, things like that. We know that a lot of the GP crowd has been hammered with messaging from Microsoft and everybody else that with the potential end of support and coming up for GP, you need to start transitioning off and move to Business Central or Acumatica or Intact, etc. About 30–40% of our customers have already made that jump, and these are the platforms that they're jumping to at the bottom of the screen. Sage Intacct, Acumatica, Business Central, and Oracle, NetSuite. We've already migrated our application over, so if you're thinking about having to move at some point in future, these are where we're seeing most of the GP customers moving to, and we've already integrated our product so you can invest now and take it with you. I'll just give you one extra slide, which is our contact information. If you want more information about this after the presentation, Amy's got our contact information in all the materials that'll go out to you, but info@dynamicbudgets.com, our website, and phone number. All right, let's get into the meat of the presentation. So I want to start off with just kind of give you a sense that a lot of our customers will start with sort of a plain vanilla financial dashboard. They'll build out a multi-year comparison, maybe last year to this year's coming up budget. Maybe they'll include the forecast. Maybe they'll include the last 3 years of actuals. They can build this like a financial report, but this would be your starting point. You can drill down into any given account. So if I want to go into my rent expense, ideally, we'd come in here and itemize your budget request. Now, if you'd wanted to, some of our customers come in here and just say, you know what, I just need an annualized budget. I'm just going to key punch in the numbers up here. That's a good starting point if you're transitioning from old system to new system. But what we really want to encourage you to do is itemize how much in which month for what purpose. So our customers will come in, click the blue account number, and then they've got this dedicated screen to input all the details about that particular expense account. My rent expense for Department 100. They can put in that they've got the North Building Floor 1 lease, and maybe they've got an anticipated lease escalation starting in January. Well, let's see if that actually happened. So we can actually come back in here, assume that we just completed the month of January, and we run our budget to actual variance report. And we find out that we'd budgeted 4,200 for the month, but we only had actuals about 2,700. Well, what happened? You can actually click into that account, drill down, and look at the comparison of the actual transactions for the month in the top half of the screen and the full annual budget in the bottom half of the screen. And what we can see is that we only had one line item for rent, and that was $2,250 a month. We didn't have a lease escalation. We didn't have a higher payment. In fact, we probably are continuing at the old payment that needs to be adjusted down. And then this transaction says airfare. Why did I get an airfare expense in my rent expense? So what if you see something wrong, you can say something wrong. We train our end users that when they're looking at their variances, if they see something that needs to be adjusted out, copy that with the headers, paste that into an email, send it back to accounting, and tell them that this is the correction that needs to be made. Please transfer that $500 expense from rent over to travel. We've got enough information off here to the right that the accountants can scroll over, look at the journal entry number, etc., and really kind of jumpstart that recon process, the readjustment. So ideally, if you understand why you're over under for the month, we thought that we were going to have a lease escalation starting in January, but that did not take place. I can come back in here and drop in a comment. And I could leave that comment in here. Why was I over or under the month? Can I recover by year end? Next year, should we do something different? I could just drop in a combined combination comment here. And then the next time I go to budget the account, I can come back in here and right click and say edit budget in here if I want to immediately go from my variance screen and edit the next budget, or maybe this is my forecast. I could come back in here and say, you know what, this wasn't supposed to start until June. Let's go ahead and delete that and hit save. So ideally, this first budget would have been locked. This is my version 3 of the budget where we're making active edits throughout the year, and I can make those changes. Now, if I'd wanted to, I could have had this as a forecast. I could have grayed out the first part of my year and only allowed end users to touch the remaining open months of the year. We can do a lot of different things. If the users don't understand how they've been spending, and they can actually look at the bottom half of the screen, and they can drill back on their actuals from prior years and prior months. So if I didn't know why I spent that $2,700, you can click right back in here and drill down into the transaction details without leaving the budgeting system. So making it very convenient. You don't have to go hunt down the management report or report. You don't have to find the particular month and drill back into the report and click, 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 click to get down to the transaction details. It is one click away right here at the bottom half of the screen. Now, I used to have to prepare a whole bunch of Excel spreadsheets with all of the prior year transactions for the staff so they understood what they spent their money on last year. So I would generate an Excel file. I would first go into GP. I'd go into my cards, financial, budgets. I'd have to generate my Excel, create my budget file. I'd have to export this thing out. We would do all of our work out in Excel. And for those of you who've worked with the GP interface, this is that ugly template that you have to fill out. You have to respect the dates, beginning and end. If you don't have those dates on here, this thing can go sideways. Sometimes if you've got incorrect headers over here, it can fail to import. You've got to have your totals at the bottom. You've got to have your totals at the right. And if this thing isn't exact, it won't import. The other fun thing that you have to do is that you can only have one version of any given account. If your end users had copied multiple line items into their budgets and you accidentally picked that up in the import, GP will only process the last line it sees and overwrites the prior ones. Lots of different ways. I have a whole 1 hour course on how not to accidentally delete, corrupt, vaporize your budgets in GP, how to properly import your budgets. It's a hassle. And it's slow. If you have 10,000 plus line items in your budget import sheet, you've got maybe about a 10-minute coffee break to try to import that in. So if you're all familiar with this process, not fun. In our world, if we can get back to my other screen here, sorry, minimize GP and get back over here. And sorry, this is being a bit of a pain. So just give me a second here. I'm going to drop out of my presentation. Okay, could be one of those days. Here we go. Um, we can come back in here, and in our world, you simply go to the tools menu, export, come
You're
to
not
this
sharing
screen.
anything, Zubin.
Oh, thank you. Let's get back into that. Okay, got me now?
Yes.
All righty. Okay, in our world over here, you come to the export screen. You hit search and you populate your shopping cart with the data that you're going to send up to GP. You come down here, you choose the destination budget that you want to send the data to. You give yourself an explanation as to what's different about this export versus last week's export. You can choose to delete everything or leave everything and hit export. It validates to make sure that the company matches the company, that the year, the budget matches the year of the destination. If you have any issues with that, it's going to prompt you that you've got a mismatch of year. Do you really want to proceed? If you're doing a multi-year budget, you might say yes. If you're doing a single year budget and you've realized that you've grabbed the wrong data set, you can cancel out of that. We have the ability to do much fancier budgets, reports. We have plain vanilla reports inside of our application, but a lot of our customers want to work embrace with Power BI and moving into Fabric and Copilot. We have the ability to take the same data feeds that we use in our internal application and point those out to GP or out to Power BI. We have the ability to do a very deep dive on payroll expenses. Now, a lot of you will have a natural budget to actual variance. We see a lot of customers budgeting straight line, but they actually accrue for those additional months or additional days at month end in their budgets. We can set a custom calendar to kind of compensate for those types of situations. So you can come in here and I could have defined my calendar as 26 pay periods throughout the year, or I could have done this as number of working days per month. Different ways that we can approach this. I'll just kind of wrap up with user security. Our customers are concerned about who gets access to see what. And we have the ability to give them access, and users can just see the menus in the upper left. Administrators can see the menus in the upper right. You can grant somebody access to a particular company. You could grant somebody access to particular departments. In here, you'll notice I've actually integrated multiple companies into a single environment. So if you're transitioning from GP to some other system, we can actually merge BC, Intact, NetSuite, GP, all in a single environment. So if you're acquiring companies that are on different products, we can actually merge those into a consolidated environment. You can grant people different permissions, and then if you're concerned, does Sally have access to payroll? Yes or no. We want her to input the operating budget but not see payroll. Well, you can actually impersonate that user, jump over here, and see their type of experience. We're going to pop up on another version of the program. You can log in as that other user and see their experience in here. Now, I tend to be the Energizer Bunny. I can keep going and going and going. We've just given you a bit of a glimpse of the type of system that we have. Our system installs against GP, and we're fully configured and up and running in about 1 hour. A lot of our competitors would quote 100 to 200 hours. We install and fully configured in an hour, hand it off to you, and start training you. We load your payroll, load all your prior year details, set up your financial report.